You are a business owner. Maybe you are a people manager, or you're responsible for the revenue sales in your business. Or maybe you are someone that works with people in your business. If that's any one of you, you're at the right place. But let me ask you a question. What brought you here today? Maybe you're curious about trust and the role trust plays in business. Or maybe you have someone in your team that you could just do with having a better relationship, having a breakthrough, because those one-to-ones are just so hard. Or maybe you're a manager and you want to build high performance teams because you're frustrated by a group of people who are good but just cannot get them to the next level. Or maybe you want to build a culture that has collaboration, shares ideas, works effortlessly with other departments, is a great place to work, and there's low staff turnover. Or maybe you want to be a leader who just wants less stress. Or maybe just somebody just invited you, okay? Whichever it is, thank you for joining me today. I want to welcome you, and I want to, in this session, I'm going to share with you why you should stay for the whole session. Why should you listen to me? I mean, if you don't know me, why should you listen to me? And then we're going to talk a little bit about trust and why trust is so important today and why we should always lead with trust. Okay? And then I'm going to move on to the foundation pillars of building trust. This changed my life. It changed my sales career and it changed my management career. And I want to share all of those with you today. So why should you watch the whole session? Number one, you're going to walk away with lots of ideas, but I want you to walk away with 2 ideas I know you can definitely use immediately. Not attending a training session with me, but you're going to be able to use this immediately with the people you interact with. Secondly, I then want you to notice their reaction, how they behave, where the conversation has actually led. And then thirdly, you're going to walk away fully understanding what trust is. And you'll know that once you've attended the whole session. But more importantly, the actual impact of trust and how you build it. Okay. So allow me 2 minutes, because many of you might be thinking, why you? What authority have you got to talk about this subject? So my background's been in sales and has been in managing teams. And I've got to tell you, I made a ton of mistakes. Okay. I was wondering why I couldn't close prospects into customers, why I couldn't retain customers, why some customers were so difficult to get hold of, difficult to train, difficult to work with, and then why I could not make customers advocates. Okay, a lot of those things maybe you're experiencing yourself. And then I got into management, and I made some huge mistakes where I lost people in my team, people closed down, they gave me one-word answers. It was a terrible place to be. I don't want that for you. And over my experience, I then learnt about trust and why trust was so critical. And once I figured out what trust was, I decided to put this workshop in place. I ran it for a number of years at my previous organization with huge success, not only for them, but also for myself, and how people would engage with me, how they would open up with me, and more importantly, how we would get to the truth about a situation that we can manage. Because let's face it, if you get to the truth of something, you're much more likely to be able to manage it. So why is trust so important today? I mean, trust is important generally, but why is it more important today? Well, number one, there's more competition. Your customers have more choice. Secondly, if you build a high trust culture, customers and staff are going to remain loyal. Okay? Most of your competition has not trained their teams on building trust. You have got the edge here. In order to build high performance teams, that requires trust in leaders, because there's going to be a time when things are going to get difficult. There's going to be a bumpy road. Policy is going to change. Products are going to change. There's going to be a release of something. And as a leader, you want your team to be able to trust you. And that's why it's so critical. But also with social media around, there's so much going on right now that people aren't 100% sure who they should go to, who is the right company to work with, who would be their trusted partner. Let's face it, every single business wants to be the trusted preferred supplier. Trust is also this invisible thing. Okay, it's a bit like a really good referee, and that is when you get a good referee in a football match, you very rarely notice them. But when things go wrong, then they're noticeable. Everything appears, all the mistakes are highlighted, things are being said, and that is why trust is so important. So let me share with you some statistics, and that is, if you build high trusted teams, that's trust between yourself and your team, what you're going to find is there's going to be 74% less stress. I mean, can you imagine your life at work, 74% less stress, okay? There's going to be 106% more energy. More energy. Imagine your team with more energy. You know, that means they're going to be coming in every day with vitality and energy to do their work, to do the task, to complete everything they need to do for the day. Now, you may say, okay, stress, of course, yes, I would love to have less stress. But really, more energy, does that really a big thing about, because to me, I'm only interested in productivity. Well, 76% higher engagement. And if you've got your team more engaged by 76%, they are going to work better. Those statistics were from Paul Zak at the Harvard Business Review. So let's move on to trust. What is trust? Think about this. Think about your best friend. Think about how they are and why you trust them. Okay, I'm assuming, like, if we have a best friend, they're probably one of our trusted friends as well. And it may well be down to because they are reliable. There's reliability there. They perform or behave consistently. Okay, so the number one thing about trust is be reliable, be consistent. Okay, with companies, we want to make sure that our product or platform, our service is delivering consistently, is reliable, and then the level of trust then goes up. Point number two is care. Okay, because you could have some great companies, you can have some great platforms, some brilliant services, but listen, if the company or the people or you as a manager, you don't care about your team, okay, it's going to be hard to build trust. Okay, you generally have to care about your team, your business. And thirdly, honesty. Earlier I said trust is about truth. Well, honesty. And honesty means often having the hard conversations, not holding back, but being honest with them and being truthful for them. My own personal definition of trust is this, and that is, it's your ability to create a safe space. Okay, if you create this safe space, that's going to lead to an open conversation. And when there's an open conversation, that is the time when you're going to get to the truth. And let's face it, we all want the truth. I know some of you think, oh, sometimes the truth hurts. Yes, the truth does sometimes hurt. But once we know the truth, i.e. the customer said, or the prospect says, no, they don't want to go ahead, we can move on. Or the prospect says they've got more questions, you can answer them. Or there's an issue with one of your team members, they can't do this project in time, or they need the time off. It's better to deal with the truth rather than wonder, rather than make assumptions. So remember, your job is to create a safe space, and that safe space is going to lead to an open conversation, and at that time you're going to get to the truth. Let me give you a non-personal example of this. If you've ever been at a party, I'm sure this has happened to you as well. You've been at a party and then somebody starts talking to you, and they just keep talking and they just tell you, sometimes they tell you quite personal stuff, and you think, wow, I wonder why that is. Part of it, I can tell you, is because, and you may say, oh, because it's the gin and tonics, but part of it, I can tell you, is because you have created a safe space. They feel safe with you. And when they feel safe, that means they're going to open up to you. And therefore, when somebody opens up to you, they're opening up because they don't feel that you're going to judge them for what they're about to say, how they're about to say it, or what they do. And that is why trust is so important. I mean, think about this. If you're in a prospect meeting with somebody and the prospect isn't opening up to you, I can tell you it's got nothing to do with your platform or your service, your product. It's invariably because they don't feel safe enough to tell you everything. That is why sometimes, I know what it was like as a salesperson. I thought I'd got a deal in and I was like really happy. I predicted it to come in at the end of the month. All of a sudden, the client has gone AWOL. Can't get hold of them. Emails, text message, anything, just could not get hold of them. And that is because they couldn't tell me the truth. It was uncomfortable for them. I didn't create the safe space for them to say, look, Atul, we're not going to go with you. So they lead you on. Next thing you know, you've been led on for 4 or 5 weeks or so. You're still chasing a deal that really isn't there. It's because it's trust. It's not to do with your price. It's not to do with the capability of your service. Maybe sometimes it is, but generally, I can tell you it's trust. So how long does it take to build trust? Okay, one question you may be wondering is how long does it take? Look, I've got some new prospects I need to get to build trust with because I need to close them because they're in my book and I need to close the sale and move on, etc. How long is it going to take me? Okay, there's a saying that says, "Oh, trust takes years to build." I don't completely buy into that theory, okay, because there are several people who we trust implicitly in a heartbeat. Okay, you may well trust the surgeon to do surgery on your back. You trust the pilot to fly the plane properly. You trust all the transport people who help you commute from home to work. These are people who we trust naturally. But I know what you're thinking. Let's talk about trust in terms of prospects, in terms of the people in my team. How long does it take? I would tell you, trust is built in moments. Okay, moments. Little moments. Okay, think about a trust bank account. Okay, here's your trust bank account. Here it is. Every little interaction you have with your customer, your prospect, you are making a little deposit into that trust bank account, right? You tell them that you were going to send them a proposal, you did it. That's a little deposit. You tell them that you were going to follow up, you did it. You tell them that you were going to find out the answers to certain questions which you were unaware of, you did it. Those are all small steps. As a people manager, same thing. Be honest with your team. Every email you write, every interaction you have with your team, you are making little deposits or possible withdrawals. Okay, so if you keep behaving consistently with small positive things, okay, your trust bank account is going to go up. Okay, but we all know that you can lose trust in a heartbeat. Okay, so if you are found to be not telling the truth, or if you're found to have promised a team member something but then decided against it, that trust will fall in a heartbeat. And that's why keep thinking about trust isn't built over years. Yes, if you've been with somebody for over a long time, then hopefully all of your small deposits would have got you a very healthy trust bank account. So small deposits, every email, every interaction, every message, they are having an effect on the trust between yourself and the group of people you're interacting with, whether that be your team, your stakeholders in your business, or your customers. Now that we know what trust is and why it's so important that we should build trust with our teams, customers, prospects, whoever, I want to share with you the 3 pillars of trust. And this changed my life. It changed every single interaction I had with my team, my customers, my prospects, with other departments. And once you hear this, you're probably going to think, oh gosh, okay, right. Yes, I should do that. So pillar number 1 is being present. Yes, being present. Now, some of you are thinking, oh, is that it? Being present? Oh gosh, that's so simple. I can do that. But here's the thing. What is being present? Okay, because the thing is, attention is the rarest, most valuable thing a leader can give. Let me just say that again. Attention is one of the most valuable things and the rarest things that a leader can give. So if you're a business owner or a people manager, this is rare. Okay, and if you give your attention to the person you're conversing with, all of a sudden that little trust bank account is going to start going up. Okay. So the easiest way to do that, number one, is to focus on the person or focus on the group. Okay. Now, that isn't always that easy. Okay. It's a trained skill. Look, we've all been on Zoom meetings where we see people, we're talking, and we can see 4 or 5 people on the call not paying any attention at all because they're looking at their phone or answering something else, or they're doing something else. That is not being present. Okay, so number one, focus on the person or focus on the group. Number two, do not interrupt. Simple. But actually, I found that so hard, and I found that hard because in sales, I was used to listening for buying signals. And the minute I heard one, hello, I can fix that, I know how to answer that, I would then automatically think, oh, let me jump in. Just before you carry on, and then I'd answer the question. I just interrupted them in mid-flow, and more importantly, I didn't have all the information. And then I thought I was being clever by answering that question. But actually, when you're interrupting someone, you are not being present. Allow them to finish. Look, if at the end of this session you walk away, and if there's one thing you do, which is not to interrupt people and just allow them to speak until they've completely finished and exhausted, they are going to ask for your opinion. Okay, I always used to say this to my team: if you got somebody on the phone, just allow them to speak. Even if they're complaining. If they're complaining, they're going to run out. They're going to run out of energy. And then wait for the pause. You almost want to get to the place where they're just about to say, oh, are you there? But not quite, okay? So that is, do not interrupt. Now, so focus on the person, do not interrupt. And then we've got listening skills, 3 levels of listening. I'm going to share with you today the 3 levels of listening. In our workshop, we go into this in far more depth, and we look at the distinctions between active listening and passive listening, what it is, why it happens. But for the purpose of this video, what I want to do is I want to share with you the 3 levels of listening. So level number 1 is listening to respond. That was me, listening to respond, buying signals. Oh, I know how to answer that question. Oh yeah, that's great. Let me jump in. That's level 1, okay? That's where most managers, most salespeople are living. Level 1, okay? Level 2 is listening to understand. Level 2, listening to understand. And that means really paying attention to what is being said. What is it that they're saying, and do I really understand what the problem is here? Okay? And sometimes you may need to ask some questions, but really understand. Look, if you can even get to level 2, you're going to be so far ahead than most people. And then level 3 is here. And that is not just listening to understand, but also listening for what is not being said. Listen, you've been in a meeting, we've all been in meetings, we've all had discussions with somebody, and you're thinking, there's something going on here. I know what they're saying is everything's fine, it's going okay, the project's on time, but I can tell by looking at them or the way they're saying it, they're not saying something, they're not sharing something with you, okay? This is why trust is so important, okay? Because when there's trust and you create this safe space, people are much more likely to open up for you. So level number 3 is not just listening to understand, but listening for what's not being said. So pillar number 1 is being present. And that is, do not interrupt, focus on the person. And before you finish, consider asking a deeper question. Could be, how are you feeling about this? It sounds like there's something that you want to say that you haven't said yet. Okay? Think about those sorts of questions. That is being present, pillar number 1. Pillar number 2 is letting go of your agenda. Let it go. Now, first of all, we want to understand what agenda is. And we're not talking about agenda for a meeting, which is these are the points which we're going to cover. We're talking agenda here. We're talking about leading with your objectives, your ideas, your goals, your advice. I want to share a quick story with you. Many years ago, I inherited a team. And I then wrote out this really long email. about what good looks like and what's the minimum standards, what are the things we're going to do, here are the goals we're going to achieve, these are going to be our daily routines, and X, Y, Z, and blah blah blah, all this stuff. And I read it. I thought, wow, this is so good. People are going to love this. And as I hit the send button, I thought, oh, there, it's going to be great. Couldn't have had a more adverse effect. The following week, I noticed hardly anybody was talking to me. Everybody had closed down. And one person came up to me and he said, Atul, yeah. I said, yeah. About that email. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Tell me. Yeah. What did you like? Did you like my plan, my quarterly plan? Well, the thing is, I don't think the team were very happy. And if you're wondering why they're not talking to you, it's because they felt a bit disrespected. And here's why. Because it was my agenda. It was my objectives, my ideas, my goals, my advice. Now that is the sort of thing that can break teams if you don't deal with it. And so I did. And the next meeting, I raised my hand up. In fact, I called everybody in and raised my hand up and said, guys, I'm so sorry. I behaved like a complete pillock. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. And now I see, if I'd read that email from someone who's just inherited a pretty good team anyway, I probably would have reacted the same way. So I then said, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to have a one-to-one with each of you, and I want you to come up with ideas about what's going well in the department. What one thing do you think we could get better at? And what one thing would you like to change, and how would you change it? And then we're going to all come back in a week's time after we've all had the one-to-ones, and then we're going to just run with your ideas, not mine, none of mine. Okay, this is our department, but we're not going to run my ideas. And then we just brainstorm these great ideas. You know, a simple thing like just making call the client the minute they'd received their login details, or call them during the day. And it's so simple, but it had a real effect. And that wasn't my idea. No, it wasn't my idea. And that had a huge impact on the way I interacted with people, which was really caring about their agenda. So the next time, you know, you're in a situation where you're thinking, oh, actually, these are the points I want to share. Run with their points first, and in a one-to-one, run with their ideas first. What's on their mind? What would they like to discuss? What could be better? How can I help you? And the same with customers, you know, or prospects. It's like, you know, what's the real problem? You know, why do you want us now? Why do you want to work with us now? What is it about us that you think would work? And all of a sudden, the shift is back on them. You're putting the emphasis and the focus on them, and they will feel that, because very few people do feel that, because most reps, and certainly when I was in sales, all I wanted to do was talk about how amazing our company was, how brilliant our service was, that we were, you know, the top 5 in the world, and why these are all the reasons you should use us. And it's like, who gives a damn? So skill number 2 is drop your agenda. Drop your agenda and focus on their agenda. You will be surprised at, one, how people react, and they will start opening up to you. So being present, pillar number 1. Letting go of your agenda, pillar number 2. And pillar number 3 is the impact of assumptions. Let me say that again, the impact of assumptions. It seems like an obvious thing that, oh yeah, but you know, everybody does that. Judging, taking action without any evidence. That is what assumptions are. You're judging someone's capability, or you're taking action without any evidence. Okay? Now, we may do that all the time, you know, and sometimes there's a healthy assumption. For example, I'm assuming that the 7 o'clock train is going to arrive in Chelmsford pretty much every morning. And so that's a safe assumption. And then there are other assumptions which are not necessarily safe assumptions. So if it's about a project, if it's about your prospect, because of where they work or how they work, don't make an assumption. Find out, what is it? Because typically assumptions are these silent killers of trust. What they're going to do is they're going to lead the conversation into a different direction. Let me give you a quick example of that. I had a member in my team, one Monday morning, they rang up and said, I'm so sorry, I'm going to be late. And I was thinking, well, of course you're going to be late because, you probably had a barbecue yesterday, you probably drank too much and woke up late today and didn't get the train you were supposed to get. So that's probably why. Okay, fair enough, you're going to be late. Anyway, they were a reasonably competent worker. And then by the way, I had no evidence of this. It's just my assumption. And then they walked in and said, oh my God, Atul, I'm so sorry, I'm late. As I was walking across London Bridge, an old woman was hit by a motorcycle. And so I kind of had to stop to help her. And then I called the ambulance and waited for the ambulance to come. How did I feel? Awful. Why? Because I made an assumption. Secondly, another quick example, in a team meeting, we were having a conversation about something in a team meeting. And I said to somebody, oh, I sense that you're angry. And she said, no, I'm not angry. Okay. I'm frustrated because I thought you said the other department was going to handle this piece of work. So it just frustrates me, not that I'm angry. Now imagine if I felt she was angry, but didn't actually deal with it, then that assumption would have led me down to a different path. Maybe I came out of that meeting thinking, oh God, that person's always annoyed and angry. Why don't you get over it? But by questioning the assumption, all of a sudden, she's told me she was frustrated, and therefore we were able to deal with it and move on with it. So assumptions, think about the assumptions that you make at work, okay? Because it's going to take you in the wrong direction. So we've had being present is the number one foundation pillar. Letting go of each other is number 2. And number 3 is the impact of assumptions. So on that point of assumptions, a quick way of dealing with assumptions is to ask yourself, what evidence do I have that my assumption is correct, that this person is not capable of doing this job? What is the evidence? Or the other way of dealing with the assumption is turn the assumption into a question. Okay, so rather than assumes, John here has got the presentation deck ready for the client this afternoon, just ask John, do you have the presentation deck for the client ready? Done. Then you don't have to assume, and then you've got to the truth. I hope now you have an idea of how important trust is. And it's this invisible skill, okay? But actually, it's very rarely taught on management training, very rarely taught in sales training. But actually, it's the thing that if you do well and right, you are going to benefit enormously from having great relationships with your team, salespeople who are going to have a unique, different conversation with prospects and customers. They're going to be able to bring in more business willingly, okay? And more importantly, you're going to create this culture where people trust each other, there's collaboration, and there's going to be more energy and less stress. So let me ask you for one small thing. I'd like you to do a quick self-audit, okay? In the last month, I want you to ask yourself, have you broken a commitment? Okay. Have you avoided a hard conversation? Okay. Have you made an assumption? Because if you have, it's okay, right? And now that you know the impact that can have. Remember, trust is built in small moments by small deposits into the trust bank account. So before I finish, I want to just run through a quick summary. And number 1 is trust is learnable. Okay, it is not based on personality. Number 2, remember your competition do not know about trust. They're not learning about trust. They're going on the same types of training courses. Nothing wrong with them. They're pretty good and they're effective. But I can tell you for long-term success, you need to build trust. And number 3, the 3 pillars I shared with you, I want you to walk away today to just pick 2 aspects of all the skills and tips that I shared with you today and work with them and use them and let me know how you got on. Notice how the conversations are different, but do it consistently. Don't just do it with one person. Try and do it with as many people as possible because, trust is just like this muscle. The more you use it, the more you're present with someone, the more you let go of your agenda, the less assumptions you make, you're going to be strong and have a healthy trust bank account. Finally, If what I said today, or I shared some information with you that made you think or curious, you think, oh, this is interesting. I wonder what else we could do. So I run something called the Trusted Leader Program. It can either be in person or virtual. It's in groups of minimum of 4 to 6 people or so, where we work an hour to 90 minutes a session once a week. And we do that over 9 weeks. And the purpose of this is to ensure that when you learn a skill, you walk away and you practice it and you come back the following week and share your experience. And then we build on these skills. So in the progress of those 9 weeks, the first 4 weeks are about trust, how to build trust. The second 4 weeks are going to be about your communication skills, how you come across, how you're perceived, whether your voice, your eye contact, whether your hand gestures, your facial expressions, your tonality, your body language, all of these things we're going to sharpen up. So when you bring the two together, you're going to become this trusted advisor or trusted leader. That's the Trusted Leader Program. If you want to explore more, just give me a call on the number below or email me and I will happily discuss with you. We can have a Zoom call. It'll probably be about 30 minutes tops. And in that call, you're going to discover 2 things. 1, whether I'm the sort of person you want to work with, or 2, maybe after we've had the discussion, maybe it's not for you. And finally, I'll also say, I will also make a call as well, because if I feel my program isn't right for your organization or your team, then I'll tell you. And then that will be fine with both of us as well. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope one day to be sharing my Trusted Leader program with you all.